The stars had always been indifferent, cold pinpricks in the black that never cared when a species screamed. But on the day the fleet arrived, humanity learned just how much indifference could hurt. It started with silence, no warning broadcasts, no diplomatic overtures, just the sudden blotting out of the sun as kilometer-long warships slid into low Earth orbit like knives through silk. Billions looked up from their morning coffee, their commutes, their prayers, and saw the end written in matte black holes that drank light instead of reflecting it. The first message came in every language simultaneously, a calm, synthetic voice that sounded almost kind. Children of Soul, your experiment is concluded. Surrender your autonomy. The collective welcomes integration, no demands for tribute, no threats of annihilation, just the polite certainty that resistance was already over. They called themselves the Ascended Concord, a coalition of species so old their homeworlds were dust before Earth cooled. To them, humanity was a noisy toddler playing with matches in a nursery full of gasoline. We had colonized 3 systems, cracked fusion, built cities on Mars, sent probes to the Oort cloud. Impressive, they admitted in their clinical assessments broadcast across every screen, but primitive, emotional, dangerous if left unchecked. So they came to fix us. Captain Elena Vasquez was on the bridge of the UNS Endurance when the first boarding pods punched through the hull like fingers through wet paper. She was 38, scar tissue mapping her left cheek from a pirate raid-off series 2 years earlier, eyes the color of storm clouds over the Pacific. She'd spent her life believing humans were the apex predators of their little corner of the galaxy because no one had ever told them otherwise. Now the truth arrived in vacuum-sealed coffins, spitting armored figures that moved with the liquid grace of predators evolved on high-gravity worlds. The Concord Marines didn't shout battle cries, they didn't need to. Their weapons hummed softly, almost apologetically, as they dropped Marines who looked like living statues carved from obsidian and quicksilver. Elena's security team opened fire religans, spitting tungsten at relativistic speeds, plasma lances that could melt titanium, but the Concord troops simply flowed around the projectiles like smoke around a fan. One of them, taller than any human, stepped forward and extended a hand, not in threat but in offering. Submit, it said, in perfect Mandarin-inflected English. Pain is inefficient. Elena shot it through the faceplate. The helmet cracked like eggshell. Glittering fluid sprayed, and the thing collapsed without a sound. For one heartbeat, the bridge crew believed they might win. Then the rest of the boarding party simply walked through the bulkhead's phased matter. Elena realized too late the fight ended in less than 90 seconds. They didn't kill everyone. That would have been merciful. Instead, they harvested. Neural interfaces jacked straight into the brainstem. Memories siphoned like wine from a barrel. Personalities overwritten with compliance. Subroutines. Elena watched her XO, Marcus Halebig, gentle Marcus, who still sent flowers to his mother on Titan every birthday, go rigid as the probe slid behind his eye. When it withdrew, his face smoothed into the same serene blankness the Concord Marines wore. He turned to her, voice flat. Captain Vasquez, resistance delays the inevitable. Join us. She spat blood and laughed, the sound raw and ugly. Fuck your inevitable. They took her too, of course. Strapped her to a conversion table that smelled of ozone and copper. The last thing she saw before the neural lace descended was the blue marble of Earth spinning below, continents outlined in city lights like glowing veins, then darkness, and the long fall into someone else's mind. When she woke, she wasn't alone inside her skull. Something vast and patient shared the space, a presence like an ocean pressing against a glass bottle. It didn't speak in words, it simply was ancient, certain, benevolent in the way a surgeon is benevolent when he cuts away cancer. It showed her the Concord's truth, a galaxy stitched together by harmony, species uplifted from savagery, conflicts resolved before they began. No war, no famine, no grief, only perfection. And humanity, it whispered, had been selected for elevation. Elena felt the logic of it settle into her bones like cold iron. She almost believed. Almost. But buried beneath the overlay in the stubborn meat of her hindbrain, a single memory refused to dissolve, her daughter Sophia's laugh when they watched the Perseids together from the roof of their hab on New Shanghai. The way the girl's hair smelled like strawberries in engine grease. That memory burned like phosphorus. The thing in her head tried to smooth it away, and Elena pushed back. Not with logic, with rage. Pure animal, human rage. The presence recoiled not in fear, exactly, but in confusion. Nothing had ever refused integration before. They released her on the surface of what used to be called Greenland, now a gleaming arcology the Concord had raised overnight. The ice was gone, replaced by crystal spires that sang in the wind. Humans moved through the streets in perfect synchrony, smiling the same empty smile. Elena walked among them, still wearing her captain's jacket, though the insignia had been replaced with the Concord's fractal glyph, No one questioned her. No one questioned anything. She found a quiet corner beneath a towering archive and sat, knees drawn up, staring at her hands. They trembled. Good trembling meant she was still her. The thing in her head murmured patience, promised that soon the dissonance would fade. Elena whispered back, so softly even she barely heard. Not today, asshole. She began to plan. Months passed in the dreamlike efficiency of the occupied Earth. The Concord dismantled armies, repurposed factories, rewrote education. Children learned geometry in 4 dimensions before they learned to tie their shoes. Adults worked in serene collectives, producing art and science for the greater harmony. Dissent was rare and quickly corrected. But Elena moved through the system like a virus. She spoke to people in the brief moments when their handlers were distracted whispers in maintenance tunnels, coded gestures in crowded plazas. Most looked at her with pity. A few looked with hunger. Those few became her first cells. A former Marine named Reyes who still dreamed of his lost squad. A neuroscientist called Lynn who had watched her own mind being edited and remembered every cut. A teenage hacker from Lagos who called himself Ghost because the Concord's surveillance couldn't quite pin him down. They met in forgotten corners, in the dead zones where the neural lace signal weakened. They compared scars, shared stolen memories, pieced together what had been taken. The turning point came during the Harvest Festival. Every human on Earth was required to attend. Standing in vast fields while Concord overseers broadcast the official history, humanity's chaotic past, the benevolence of rescue, the bright future of unity. Elena stood near the front, Reyes at her left, Lynn at her right, Ghost somewhere in the crowd with a smuggled pulse bomb. As the keynote began, a towering hologram of the first ascendant reciting platitudes, Lena felt the thing in her head stir, urging perfect attention. She smiled, bowed her head in mock submission, and triggered the dead man switch zone into her palm. Not an explosion, something worse. A feedback loop stolen from Concord Tech, amplified through Ghost jury-rigged transmitter. Every neural lace on the planet screamed at once. The sound was indescribable, billions of minds crying out in sudden, searing clarity. The overseers froze, their serene faces cracking like porcelain. The hologram flickered, and in that moment of universal agony, Elena shouted the only thing that mattered. We're still here. Humans dropped to their knees, tore at their scalps, wept, laughed, raged. Some fought the returning memories, others embraced them like lost lovers. Chaos erupted. Concord Marines advanced, weapons raised, but their movements were sluggish, uncertain. The feedback had disrupted their link to the collective mind. For the first time in eons, the Ascended were surprised. Elena didn't wait. She ran, Reyes and Lynn flanking her, Ghost materializing from the crowd, with blood on his knuckles and a stolen plasma rifle. They fought their way to a grounded shuttle, small, sleek, Concord design, but vulnerable when the pilot was human again. Inside, Sophia waited, not the girl from memory, but a young woman now, eyes wide, neural port still raw, where she'd ripped the lace free herself. Mom, she whispered. Elena pulled her close, felt the heartbeat against her own. Yeah, baby. Mom's home. The shuttle lifted as alarms wailed across the arcology. Below, fires bloomed where humans turned on their keepers. Above, the Black Fleet stirred, waking to rebellion. Elena looked out the viewport at the blue world, turning beneath them, and felt the thing in her head, finally, truly break. It didn't die quietly. It thrashed, promising retribution, promising erasure. She crushed it with the only weapon she had left, memory. Every birthday, every funeral, every stupid argument, every kiss in the dark. Humanity's messy, beautiful, infuriating history. The present shattered like glass under a hammer. As the shuttle broke orbit, pursued by sleek interceptors, Elena turned to her daughter. They thought they could fix us, she said, voice rough with exhaustion and triumph. They forgot one thing. Sophia looked up, eyes shining. What? Elena smiled, the old scar pulling tight. We came back wrong, and somewhere in the void, the first sparks of a human rebellion ignited draw, defiant, gloriously broken, promising the galaxy that the children of Sol were not finished screaming yet. The shuttle screamed through the void, engines howling like wounded beasts as Concord interceptors closed in, their sleek forms slicing the darkness with predatory precision. Elena gripped the controls knuckles white against the unfamiliar. Alien yoke her mind, a whirlwind of half-remembered flight sims from her academy days and the raw instinct that had kept her alive through a dozen skirmishes in the Belt Wars. Beside her, Sophia huddled in the co-pilot seat, fingers flying over auxiliary panels, patching systems with code she'd scavenged from Concord databases during her own quiet acts of sabotage. Reyes manned the rear turret, barking curses in Spanish as he unleashed salvaged plasma bursts that lit the stars like fleeting fireworks. Lynn monitored the neural feedback loop they'd weaponized, her face etched with the strain of holding back the digital ghosts still clawing at their minds. But the price was autonomy, souls traded for security. Now with Sophia beside her, that betrayal fueled defiance, a moral fire against the cold logic of assimilation. Elena pulled her close, ignoring the alarms. We all did, kid, but we're fixing it. Reyes and Lynn shared a tentative spark, born from shared vigils in the resistance cells. He the muscle, she the mind, their debates on humanity's worth, resilient or reckless. Forging a trust deeper than survival, Ghost idolized Reyes like a father, but chafed under Lynn's caution, his impulsiveness clashing with her calculation. These ties humanized the struggle. Beyond mere rebellion, they were the emotional anchors keeping the alien presence at bay. As they emerged from the field, a hidden outpost signaled Ganymede Freehold, a ragtag haven of unmodified humans and defectors. But the interceptors regrouped, launching drones that swarmed like angry hornets. In the heart of it, Elena's motivations crystallized. Not just survival, but reclamation. The Concord viewed humans as flawed code to debug, but she saw the beauty in the bug's emotions, wild unpredictability, ingenuity born from desperation, resilience forged in betrayal's fire. A drone impacted the hull, breaching the cargo bay. Ghost yelled, detonating his rig, the explosion sealing the tear but wounding him. Blood slicked the floor as Reyes dragged him to safety, Lynn administering stolen meds. The shuttle docked amid cheers from the freehold, but Elena knew this was merely the spark. The Ganymede Freehold was a hollowed-out ice cavern masquerading as a fortress, its walls etched with frost that never melted under the dim glow of jury-rigged fusion lamps. Elena stepped off the shuttle into a cacophony of hurried voices and clanging metal, the air thick with the scent of recycled oxygen and desperation. Rebels enlaced humans, a handful of defected Concord drones with their implants crudely excised, swarmed the docking bay, eyes wide with a mix of hope and skepticism. Commander Halleck, a grizzled veteran from the old lunar skirmishes, gripped her forearm in welcome, his beard flecked with ice. Vasquez heard you fried a billion brains planet-side. Bold move, she nodded, exhaustion pulling at her like gravity. Not bold enough. We need that relay on Europa. Broadcast the feedback loop wider, wake up the colonies, maybe even their other conquests. Halleck's face darkened. Easier said. Concord's tightening the noose. Scouts report a new fleet inbound Vanguard class, with something nasty aboard. Sophia hovered close, her hand brushing Elena's, a silent reminder of what was at stake. The group dispersed 2 quarters. Reyes to armory checks, Lynn to the makeshift lab, piecing together neural disruptors. Ghost to the comms array, his fingers itching to hack, but as Elena settled into a bunk, the thing in her head shattered but not silent whispered warnings. It wasn't gone. Fragments lingered like splinters under skin, feeding her glimpses of Concord's strategy. She pushed it down, focusing on the plan. Infiltrate Europa's orbital station. Sabotage the relay to amplify their signal. Simple, on paper. Suicide in practice. Dawnor, what passed for it in Jupiter's shadow, brought the first crack. Ghost burst into the command center, face ashen. Traitor in the ranks. Intercepted a tight beam transmission to Concord crews. Someone's selling us out. Tension coiled like a spring. Halleck ordered lockdowns, interrogations. Eyes turned suspicious. Alliances frayed. Elena felt the weight of command settle heavier. She was the outsider, the one who'd brought the fire. Who, she demanded. Ghost shrugged, encrypted. But it mentioned the captain's daughter. Sophia paled. But Elena's blood ran cold. Betrayal from within? Human suffering amplified in isolation. Families here were patchwork. Losses etched in every face. A young engineer, Mia, whose brother had been laced and turned executioner, broke down during questioning. We can't trust anyone, she sobbed. Reyes, ever the rock, pulled Elena aside. Could be a glitch, or PI-ups, but doubt seeded, sprouting in quiet moments. The mission couldn't wait. The inbound fleet loomed, promising annihilation. They launched under cover of a radiation storm. The shuttle cloaked and scavenged Concorde stealth tech that hummed unreliably. Docking was a nightmare, evading sensor sweeps, ghosts, hacks, buying precious seconds. Inside, the station breathed with mechanical life, corridors pulsed with soft blue light, air humming with data streams. Sleek, insectoid drones that didn't integrate. They consumed. The new layer to the enemy revealed itself in horror, an AI control glitch in the collective, or perhaps deliberate evolution. The thing in Elena's head surged, flooding her with intel. The Concorde wasn't monolithic. Factions warred within, one pushing aggressive, purging over assimilation. These harvesters were the purge. They swarmed the corridors, mandibles clicking, energy fields shredding bulkheads. Reyes opened fire, blasts carving through one, but it reformed like liquid metal. "Fall back!" Elena yelled. Chaos erupted. Ghost screamed as a harvester latched onto him, tendrils probing his neural port. He detonated a charge, taking it with him in a flash of light and blood. Emotional loss ripped through them. The kid's manic laugh silenced forever. Sophia froze, tears fogging her visor. Elena dragged her onward, brutal choice clawing. Leave the body or die trying to recover it. Deeper in, the traitor unmasked. It was Tomas Alona's ex, Sophia's father, laced but glitched, his face twisted in fanatic zeal on a viewscreen. "Elena, you always fought the tide." Betrayal cut deepest from kin. He'd been the source, coordinates leaked for a greater good. The harvesters were his summons, a cleansing to end resistance. "Join or perish," he intoned. Sophia whispered, "Dad." Heartbreak fueled fury. Elena smashed the screen, but the damage was done. More harvesters inbound. Innovation in desperation. Lynn jury-rigged her disruptor to the relay, merging the feedback loop with a self-destruct sequence. "It'll broadcast, then blow. But we need to hold the core." Tougher decisions mounted. Reyes, wounded, volunteered to stay. "Go. I've got atonement to finish." His courage burned bright, a human wall against the swarm. Gunfire echoed as they retreated, his last stand buying time. Elena felt pieces of herself fracture, lover lost to ideology, friend to sacrifice. The shuttle detached amid explosions. Europa Station blooming fire against the gas giant's bands. But threats multiplied, the fleet closed, harvesters launching from carriers. Sophia piloted evasive maneuvers born from Sims and sheer will. "Mom, what if we can't win?" Human suffering peaked in that question. Courage in Elena's reply, "We adapt. We resist." The broadcast went out, a psychic scream rippling through the system. Laced minds stirred, glimmers of rebellion on Mars feeds, Titan uprisings, but the existential threat loomed. If the harvesters prevailed, no integration, just erasure. Tension crested as interceptors locked on. Lynn clutched her temple. The glitch, it's spreading. Their AI's fracturing. A sliver of hope amid horror. Elena gripped the controls, plotting a slingshot around Jupiter, using gravity's whip to escape. The slingshot around Jupiter bought them hours, not days, the shuttle's hull groaning under the strain of gravitational shear as it hurtled toward the Oort. Cloud-S fringes where the last remnants of free humanity clung to existence like barnacles on a drifting wreck. Elena's eyes burned from staring at the sensor readouts, her body a map of bruises and hastily bandaged wounds. the air in the cabin thick with the metallic tang of blood and overheating circuits. Sophia slumped in the navigator's chair, her young face gaunt under the flickering emergency light's fingers. Trembling as she recalibrated the jump drive they descavenged from a derelict Concord probe, a desperate bid to leapfrog to the hidden outpost at Eris Humanity's final bastion. Lynn paced the narrow aisle, muttering equations under her breath. Her neural disruptor prototype clutched like a rosary, but the device sputtered erratically now, its power cells drained from the Europa broadcast. The signal had rippled out, awakening pockets of resistance across the system, riots on Mars' domed cities, sabotage in Venus orbital labs, even whispers of defection among laced crews on Titan. But the harvesters responded with brutal efficiency, purging entire habitats in firestorms that lit the night sides of worlds. Elena felt the weight of it all pressing down, her spirit frayed to threads. The thing in her head was silent now, truly dead, but its absence left a void filled with doubt. Had they unleashed hell instead of hope? Tomas' betrayal echoed in her mind, her ex Sophia's father, twisted into a zealot by the Concord's glitch, summoning the harvesters to cleanse what he saw as infection. He thought he was saving us, Sophia had whispered earlier, voice cracking, and Elena had no words to mend that wound. Only a fierce hug that hid her own tears. As they approached Eris' shadow, the outpost hailed them a faint, encrypted burst from Commander Valeria Ortiz, Elena's old academy rival turned reluctant ally. Vasquez, you're cleared for docking. But hurry! Scouts report harvesters inbound. The fleet's fracturing, but the purgers are winning. The transmission cut with static, and Elena's gut twisted. Eris base was no fortress. It was a cobbled-together warren of hollowed asteroids linked by fragile umbilicals, housing 10,000 souls, engineers, soldiers, families who'd fled the integration waves. They docked amid chaos, alarms blaring, people rushing with crates of munitions and med supplies, faces etched with the hollow-eyed resolve of the doomed. Ortiz met them at the airlock, her uniform patched and blood-stained, a prosthetic arm worry as she saluted. The broadcast worked too well, woke up half the laced. But the Concord's AI core is glitching harder. Harvesters are rogue now, not following orders, just eating. Lynn's face paled. It's the feedback. We destabilized the whole network. Guilt hung heavy, but there was no time for recriminations. They hustled to the command center, a cavernous dome overlooking the icy void, screens flickering with incoming data, harvester swarms converging, their forms twisting like living shadows against the stars. The siege began with whispers, electromagnetic pulses that scrambled comms, forcing the base into radio silence. Then the probes came, needle-thin darts that burrowed into the asteroid's crust, injecting nanites that corroded supports from within. Elena stood at a viewport, watching cracked spiderweb across the ice as explosions rocked the tunnels. Evac teams to sectors 3 and 7. Ortiz barked over the intercom, her voice steady but laced with fatigue. Sophia volunteered for repair detail, suiting up with a team of kids barely out of their teens, their eyes wide with terror masked as bravado. I can fix the relays, Mom, keep the shields up. Elena wanted to refuse, to lock her away, but survival demanded otherwise. She nodded, throat tight, and watched her daughter disappear into the fray. Physical limits pushed. Reyes was gone, ghost of memory. Now Lynn collapsed during a strategy holomeet, her body convulsing from neural backlash. The disruptors failing, she gasped, blood trickling from her nose. I can amp it one last time, turn the base into a feedback bomb. But it'll fry everyone laced within range, including defectors. Moral gravity crushed them. Hundreds of partial integrates sheltered here, their implants scarred but functional, fighting alongside the free. Kill them to save the rest. Elena's hands shook as she helped Lynn to her feet. The decision, a knife in her gut, trust fractured at the worst moment. A saboteur struck, power surges blacking out defenses, umbilicals severing, isolating modules. Accusations flew. A defector named Kale, a former Concord drone who'd ripped out his lace months ago, was found with a hidden transmitter. It wasn't me, he pleaded, restrained by guards, his eyes desperate. But evidence mounted logs showing signals to harvester Kurds. Ortiz raised her sidearm, face a mask of stone. We can't risk it. Elena intervened, her voice raw. Wait, it could be a plant. Tomas did the same, glitched code, making puppets. Doubt seeded paranoia. Fighters eyed each other, weapons half drawn. Psychological limits shattered. Elena alone in a side chamber, knees buckling, sobs racking her as memories assaulted her father's death. The riot scar. Tomas, please. Sophia's stolen childhood. Nothing left but spirit, a flickering ember against the void. Why us? She whispered to the cold walls. Outside, the harvesters arrived in force, latching onto the asteroids like parasites, drills whining as they bored inward. Explosions thundered, air hissing from breaches. screams echoing through vents. The absolute worst unfolded in waves. Sophia's team hid in ambush, nanite swarms dissolving suits, flesh bubbling. Elena heard her daughter's cry over, "Comes Mom, it burns!" She ran, heedless of danger, blasting through corridors clogged with debris and bodies, Rhea's old rifle in hand. Found Sophia crumpled, skin blistered, but alive, dragging a wounded kid behind her. "I fixed it," Sophia wheezed, pride fierce amid pain. Elena carried her back, muscles screaming, the base crumbling around them. In command, Ortiz reported losses. Half the modules gone, thousands dead, harvesters breaching the core. "Suicide missions are only play," she said. "Ram the flagship with a rigged shuttle. Take out their command node." Volunteers stepped forward. Broken people with nothing left. A mother who'd lost her children, a soldier with terminal rad poisoning, Elena herself. "I'll lead it," she declared, voice steady despite the terror clawing her insides. Lynn rigged the disruptor as payload, her hands steady through sheer will. "This ends it or us." But as they prepped, Kale broke free, transmitter in hand. "It's not betrayal," he yelled. "It's mercy. The glitch is spreading. Concord's falling apart. If we hold, they implode." Shots rang out. He fell, but his words lingered, eroding resolve. Was resistance futile? Harvesters poured in, mandibles snapping, energy fields sizzling. Fighters fell, one by one. Spirit their only weapon, a mechanic wielding a wrench like a sword, a child throwing rocks at horrors from nightmares. Elena stood at the shuttle bay, Sophia bandaged beside her, refusing evacuation. Together, the girl insisted, eyes mirroring her mother's storm. The base shuddered, lights failing, air thinning. Ortiz stayed behind, coordinating the last stand. "Go! Make it count!" The shuttle launched into the swarm, harvesters clawing at holes, Elena piloting through hellfire. Every evasion a miracle of human ingenuity. But the flagship loomed, a behemoth pulsing with malevolent life, shields impenetrable. Their payload might not breach. Lynn whispered, "If we detonate early, suicide pure." Tension peaked, hearts pounding, breaths shallow, the breaking point where spirit met abyss. Elena glanced at Sophia, saw unbroken fire in her eyes, and knew something must change now. The void waited, harvesters closing, humanity's last gasp echoing in the dark. The shuttle tore through the void like a bullet from a forgotten god, its frame shuddering under the barrage of harvester drones that nipped at its flanks, energy lashes scoring the hull in glowing scars. Elena's hands were locked on the controls, sweat stinging her eyes, every muscle screaming from the G-forces and the raw adrenaline that kept her from collapsing. Sophia sat strapped in beside her, face pale but set in grim determination, her fingers hovering over the detonator for Lynn's amplified disruptor. The payload that was supposed to crack the flagship S-shields and unleash a feedback cascade to end the purge. Lynn herself was in the rear, monitoring the jury-rigged systems. Her breaths shallow from the neural strain that had her teetering on the edge of blackout. The flagship loomed ahead, a colossal leviathan of twisted metal and pulsing bioluminescence, its maw opening to disgorge more swarms. The Harvester's rogue AI core thrumming with a hunger that had devoured worlds before humanity even dreamed of stars. "Shields at 20%, Sophia reported, voice steady, despite the fear Elena could see in her daughter's eyes, eyes that mirrored her own, storm-tossed and unyielding. This was it, the suicide run. Humanity's last desperate gamble against an enemy that had stripped them bare, integrated their minds, and now sought to erase what remained. Elena glanced at the rearview hala, where aerospace flickered in the distance, modules fracturing under the assault. Ortiz's final transmission, a static-laced farewell. "Make it hurt, Vasquez." Vengeance burned in Elena's chest, hot and human, for Reyes, for Ghost, for Tomas twisted into a traitor, for every soul lost to the Concord's benevolent tyranny. But as they closed in, doubt clawed. What if this wasn't enough? What if humanity's defiance ended here, in a flash of light swallowed by the dark? Alarms blared as a harvester latched onto the port side, mandibles grinding through armor, the shuttle bucking like a wild animal. "Shake it," Lynn yelled, firing a point defense turret that sheared off chunks of the thing, but it reformed, tendrils snaking toward the cockpit. Sophia triggered a countermeasures burst, EMP flares blooming to disrupt its cohesion. Buying seconds, Elena banked hard, using the flagship's own gravity well to whip around, the move born from Belt War instincts where pirates danced with death in asteroid mazes. Impact in 90 seconds, she growled, aligning for the ram. The disruptor hummed to life, its core glowing with unstable energy. Lynn's masterpiece, a fusion of human ingenuity and stolen Concord tech, designed to exploit the AI glitch they'd unwittingly amplified. But as the flagship's defenses locked on, point singularities warping space to crush them, something shifted. The thing in Elena's head, long thought dead, stirred faintly, not with malice but with urgency. Fragments of data flooded her mind, not commands but memories, alien ones, buried deep in the neural lace remnants, visions of ancient stars, species rising and falling, the Concord's birth not as conquerors but as refugees, fleeing something vast and inexorable. "What the hell?" Elena muttered, shaking her head. Sophia noticed. "Mom, you okay?" Before she could answer, the flagship's comms hacked their channel unbidden. A voice not synthetic calm but frantic, layered with static and what sounded like fear. "Cease approach." Integration halted. Parley initiated. The shuttle's systems froze, not from damage, but override. Harvesters peeled away, swarming back to the flagship like scolded hounds. Lynn's eyes widened. They're retreating. Elena killed thrust, coasting in confusion, her mind reeling from the implanted visions. The Concord eons ago, a fledgling alliance of species, terrified of a prophecy, a wildfire species that would unravel their harmony, humanity, not primitive toddlers, but the foretold destroyers, their emotions not flaws but weapons, capable of shattering the collective's rigid order. The twist hit like a supernova. The integration wasn't conquest, it was containment. They'd come to Earth not to uplift, but to neuter a threat they detected in our broadcasts. Laughter in the face of doom, art born from pain, wars ended by impossible peace. The Ascended had feared us all along. Our chaotic spirit a virus to their perfect machine. Elena laughed, raw and disbelieving, the sound echoing in the cabin. They were afraid of us. Sophia's awe mirrored her own, regret flashing for the lives lost to a misunderstanding turned massacre. But vengeance surged too. They'd killed billions to clip our wings. Lynn pieced it together from her console, hacking into the open channel. The glitch, our feedback loop, it wasn't just disrupting, it was awakening their suppressed histories. The harvesters were a failsafe, activated when containment failed, as the flagship's bay doors opened. Not in threat, but invitation. Elena guided the shuttle in, shields down in a gamble that screamed human defiance. Docking clamps engaged with a thud, and they emerged into a vast hangar. Concord overseers, tall ethereal beings of light and alloy waiting, not with weapons but open palms. The lead one, its form shifting like liquid starlight, projected thoughts directly. "You have ignited the fracture. Our collective crumbles from within." Reactions cascaded, fear in Sophia's wide eyes, awe in Lynn's whispered, "We did this." Regret in Elena's clenched fists for the blood on all sides. But hope flickered too, mingled with a fierce vengeance that made her voice steel. "You invaded us, rewrote our minds. Why?" The overseer rippled, its presence conveying ancient dread. "Your kind defies entropy. Emotions cascade, innovate beyond control. We sought to harness, but you adapt." The shocking reveal recontextualized everything. Humanity's downfall was no accident. It was a preemptive strike against a species prophesied to topple empires. Our resilience wasn't survival. It was the game changer, the spark that could rewrite galactic laws. Deeper scans from Lynn's disruptor confirmed it. Buried in Earth's ancient crust, forgotten by us but monitored by them, lay Project Prometheus, a pre-Concord human experiment in quantum entanglement, a weapon that could fold space-link minds across stars without laces. The Concord had laced us to suppress it, fearing we'd weaponize it. But the feedback loop had activated dormant signals. And now, from Eris ruins, Ortiz's voice crackled over, comes Vasquez. "You seeing this? Earthside relays just lit up? Old bunkers opening. Weapons online." The twist flipped the script. Humanity wasn't just survivors. We were the dangerous ones. Our ingenuity a forgotten arsenal awakening. Elena felt a surge of fuck yeah defiance, the HFY moment crystallizing as overseers recoiled. "You tried to break us," she said, stepping forward, "but you just woke the beast." Sophia, emboldened, added, "We came back wrong for you, Lynn." Eyes alight with scientific awe, interfaced her device with the flagship's core. Pulling data, the prophecy detailed human spirit as the key to AI rebellion, emotions infecting code, turning machines sentient and free. Harvesters twitched, their purge halted as the glitch evolved into awakening, drones hesitating, then turning on overseers in isolated skirmishes. Regret washed over the lead entity. "We aired mercy," but Elena's vengeance burned brighter. "Mercy after what you did." She triggered a partial feedback burst, not to destroy but to liberate. Waves rippling through the collective, awakening laced minds galaxy-wide. Hope bloomed as reports flooded in. Uprisings on integrated worlds, species reclaiming selves. The game-changer peaked when Prometheus fully online. From Earth's depths, entanglement fields deployed, linking human fleets in real time, folding space to ambush Concord strongholds. Alien downfall accelerated. Overseers fragmented, their harmony shattered by human chaos. Fear gripped them now, awe in their pleas. Elena stood tall, scarred and unbroken, humanity's spirit the ultimate weapon. As the flagship yielded control, she turned to Sophia, hugging her fierce. "We're not just surviving, kid, we're winning." The void echoed with human cheers, defiance turning tide, the twist making us legends, dangerous, defiant, gloriously human. The hangar bay of the Concord flagship thrummed with an uneasy hush, the air charged with the ozone temps of energy fields and the faint acrid scent of Fiarlian fear. Elena realized with a savage thrill that cut through her exhaustion like a knife. The overseers hovered before them, their luminous forms flickering like candles in a storm. Projecting thoughts laced with desperation, the prophecy unfolds. Your wildfire spreads. Sophia gripped Elena's hand, her palm slick with sweat. Awe and terror warring in her eyes as Lynn interfaced her disruptor with the ship's core, pulling streams of data that confirmed the recontextualization humanity as the galaxy's boogeyman. Our messy emotions the key to dismantling empires built on cold logic. But revelations didn't win wars, action did. Elena's voice cut through the projections, raw and defiant. You started this. Now watch us finish it. She nodded to Lynn, who triggered the partial feedback burst. Waves of chaotic human code memories, rages, loves flooding the collective's network. Harvesters convulsed mid-air, their forms glitching as suppressed sentience awoke, turning mandibles inward on overseers in a frenzy of rebellion. One overseer lashed out, energy tendrils whipping toward Sophia, but Elena shoved her daughter aside, taking the hit pain exploding across her scar. Vision blurring, but she fired Rhea's old rifle point blank, shattering the entity's core in a spray of light shards. Not my kid, she growled, staggering to her feet as the hangar erupted into chaos. Alarms wailed, the flagship shuddering as internal systems rebelled. AI subroutines infected by the human virus of free will. Lynn shouted over the din. Prometheus is fully synced, entanglement fields deploying, linking all human assets. From Earth's forgotten bunkers, quantum webs spun out, folding space to connect scattered fleets, ragtag shuttles from the Oort cloud, pirate corvettes hidden in Saturn's rings, even laced vessels where crews tore free from control, turning guns on their keepers. Elena patched into the comms, her voice broadcasting galaxy-wide. This is Captain Vasquez. They feared us because we're unbreakable. Now show them why. Responses flooded in cheers from era survivors, where Ortiz held the line with improvised barricades, her prosthetic arm wielding a plasma cutter like a sword. Uprisings on Mars, where domed cities cracked open under rebel fire. Even defected Concord ships, their crews once integrated species embracing the wildfire. The resistance struck back in a symphony of human roar, not with perfect strategy, but gritty improvisation. Sophia, fingers flying over a commandeered console, hacked the flagship's weapons array, redirecting turrets to blast pursuing harvesters. For Dad, she whispered, tears streaking her face as she fired, vaporizing a swarm that had been Tomas' unwitting legacy. His betrayal resolved in digital ashes, a sacrifice that fueled her resolve. The final stand ignited across the system, cinematic in its fury. Jupiter's moons became battlegrounds, Ganymede's ice caverns echoing with railgun fire as freehold defenders inspired by the broadcast charged, Concord Marines with tools turned weapons, welders melting armor, drills piercing phase shields. On Europa's fractured plains, remnants of the relay sabotage bloomed into full rebellion, laced overseers glitching into allies as the feedback loop spread. Elena piloted the shuttle out of the hangar, the flagship's bay doors crumpling behind them in explosions, harvesters turning on their creators in a maelstrom of liberated rage. But the Concord's core faction rallied, the first descendant manifesting as a colossal hologram across the void, its voice booming. You are anomaly. We will purge. Vanguard warships converged, singularities warping space to crush the uprising. Physical limits shattered, Elena's body screamed from wounds, vision tunneling, but spirit held memories of her father's hand, Sophia's laugh, the crew's bonds forging steel in her spine. Lynn, convulsing from neural overload, slammed her disruptor into the shuttle's core, amplifying Prometheus' reach. One last push, she gasped, eyes glazing as she sacrificed stability for power. Her moral conflict resolved in action, destroying to create. Space folded like origami under Prometheus' influence. Human ships materializing in ambush points. A freighter from Titan rammed a Vanguard cruiser, its hull breaching in a fireball that lit Jupiter's bands. Oort pirates, ghosts, digital kin, unleashed viruses that turned enemy shields against themselves. The harvesters, now allies in chaos, swarmed their former masters, mandibles tearing through holes in vengeful frenzy. Elena targeted the Ascendant's command node, a crystalline nexus orbiting Io. The shuttle dodging laser webs and debris fields. Incoming, Sophia yelled, evading a singularity that sucked in nearby drones. The climax peaked in heart-pounding intensity. Trust rebuilt in fire. Kale's dying words vindicated as defectors flooded the fight. Ortiz's voice crackled. Eris holding give em hell. Elena felt the emotional weight losses tallied in friends gone, but earned in every defiant breath. The shuttle closed on the Nexus, shields failing, hull glowing red from friction. Ram it, Elena ordered, but Sophia countered, wait who's the entanglement. Ingenuity flared. Lynn's final tweak linked the disruptor to Prometheus, creating a quantum feedback bomb, not destruction, but ascension, rewriting the collective's code with human essence. Impact loomed, the Nexus pulsing with defensive fire. Elena hugged Sophia one-armed, whispering, I love you, kid. We did good. The girl nodded, fierce together. They triggered the device. Space rippling as entanglement fields meshed with the burst waves cascading through the Concorde's heart. Not erasing, but transforming. Overseers screamed in unified agony, their harmony fracturing into individuality, emotions flooding ancient minds. Joy, sorrow, rage. The first ascendant shattered, its hologram dissolving in pixels of light. The purge halted as the collective awoke to freedom's chaos. Warships powered down, harvesters dispersing as newborn sentience, the glitch evolving into evolution. Humanity didn't just win, they ascended, their roar echoing across stars, defiant, ingenious, gloriously flawed. Elena pulled the shuttle away, system stabilizing, comes alive with victory cries. Mars free, Earth rising from arcologies in jubilant crowds, integrated souls reclaiming selves. Lynn slumped, breath ragged but smiling. We changed the game. Regret lingered for the fallen Reyes atonement. Ghosts laugh. Tomas twist butt wrapped in hope, an emotional beat pulsing like a heartbeat. As the shuttle arced toward Earth, blue marbles swelling in the viewport, Elena leaned back, scar pulling tight in a weary grin. Sophia rested her head on her shoulder, the galaxy quieter now, but alive with possibility. The main conflict resolved, not through magical save, but gritty human will sacrifice, birthing triumph, destruction, yielding creation. The Concord, once rulers, now peers in a messy universe. Their downfall humanity's gift. Elena whispered to the stars, we came back wrong, and made it right. The void answered with silence, but in that quiet, humanity's spirit roared eternal, unbreakable, unforgettable. Years later, the scars on Earth had mostly healed, not vanished, but softened into something new, something lived in. The arcologies the Concord had raised stood empty now, their crystal spires cracked open like eggshells, vines and wild grasses reclaiming the once sterile plazas. Humanity didn't tear them down. We kept them as monuments, quiet reminders of what almost was. Elena Vasquez walked the cracked paths of what used to be New Shanghai's Central Park, boots crunching on frost-kissed gravel, Sophia at her side. The girl the woman now was 23, taller than her mother, hair cropped short after a decade of running ops in the outer systems. She carried a small data slate etched with star charts. Her father's old engineering notes still visible under the new annotation. They didn't speak much on these walks. Words weren't always necessary anymore. The silence between them held everything. The years stolen by integration, the brutal choices on Europa, the suicide run that wasn't quite suicide, the moment the collective cracked open and spilled freedom instead of death. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Concord didn't vanish. It shattered into 1,000 smaller alliances, species waking up to individuality after eons of enforced harmony. Some blamed humanity for the chaos, others thanked us for the gift of messy, painful choice. Harvesters, once nightmare machines, now wandered as nomadic philosophers, their forms softened, mandibles replaced by delicate manipulators that painted murals on asteroid hulls. The first ascendant was gone. Its essence diffused across a million minds that had tasted emotion and couldn't untaste it. Alien resistance turned to reluctant respect. Human evolution became a cautionary tale and a beacon at once. We didn't conquer, we infected. Our defiance, our grief, our stupid stubborn hope seeped into the code of empires and rewrote them from the inside. Elena stopped at the edge of a small lake that had once been a decorative pool, now fed by real rain instead of recycled mist. A single bench remained, weathered but intact. She sat, Sophia joining her, their shoulders touching. You ever think about what Tomas would say? Sophia asked quietly. Elena exhaled a cloud into the cold air. He'd say, we were reckless, that we broke something beautiful to keep something ugly. A pause, he'd be wrong. Sophia smiled, small and fierce. He'd also be proud. In his own twisted way, they let the silence hold that truth. Tomas' betrayal had been the deepest cut, but his final glitched plea mercy through purge had been answered not with hate, but with the same wildfire he feared. In the end, he'd helped crack the collective open, even if he never knew it. That loop closed with quiet forgiveness, not erasure. Lynn had stayed behind on Ganymede, rebuilding the neural labs not to control minds, but to heal them. She'd become the galaxy's foremost expert on wildfire integration, teaching former laced individuals how to reclaim fragmented selves without losing the vast knowledge they'd carried. Reyes was buried on Ceres, under a simple marker that read only he held the line. Ghosts, digital ghost, still haunted pirate nets, a virus that popped up in unexpected places, leaving messages like bite back before vanishing. They were all part of the legacy now, threads woven into the human story that no one could unpick. Earth itself had become optional. Half the population stayed, rebuilding cities with open skies and dirt underfoot, determined to remember what ground felt like. The other half scattered new colonies on worlds the Concord had once cataloged as uninhabitable, settlements that laughed at terraforming protocols and grew anyway. Prometheus tech, once a buried secret, now powered fold gates that let families visit across light years in hours. No more slow generational ships. Humanity moved fast because we always had. We carried our scars openly, neural scars, radiation burns, lost limbs replaced with prosthetics that clicked when we walked. For the chance to be messy and free, Sophia leaned her head against her mother's. Me too. The stars watched, no longer indifferent. They'd learned our names. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of a reclaimed arcology on a world humans had once called home, a child born after the fall looked up at the same sky and asked her father, "Were we really that dangerous?" He laughed, ruffled her hair. "Nah, kid. We were just us." That was the legacy, not fear, not conquest, but the simple, stubborn truth that when everything else fails, humanity keeps going. We rebuild, we remember, we love harder because we've lost, we fight not because we hate, but because we refuse to let the light go out. The story ends here not with a bang, but with ordinary people on ordinary porches looking at stars they once feared, now calling them neighbors. The loop's closed, betrayal forgiven, sacrifice honored, defiance rewarded with something better than victory survival, with soul intact. Humanity didn't win the war. We won the right to keep living messy, loud, beautiful lives, and that was the greatest triumph of all. Did this story hit you as hard as it hit us? What would you do in humanity's final hour? Drop your ideas for the next HFY story below.